Well, okay. After a little bit of a delay, this is the very professional Breaking Down Security podcast. Where Miss Boettcher, Miss Berlin, myself, Brian Brake, going to talk about some security stuff. A bit of ranty. We're going to talk about BLUFFs, the Bluetooth vulnerability. We're going to talk about how to measure things and metrics, and we're going to be Ranty Clause is going to visit us tonight to talk about some other things as well. So, Mr. Boettcher, Miss Berlin, it's been forever since I've seen you. So, how are you doing?
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Same old,
Okay.
same old.
Really?
Yep.
Getting ready for the holidays? Is it snowing in Cleveland? It was shit today.
No, it's just gross. Actually, today was not too bad. We walked outside next to the lake today and did not
Oh.
freeze.
That's
like almost 45, 46, something like that. So
okay. Okay.
we're
Wow.
so Matt is training for another marathon, and I told him, because I don't really run, but I told him I would walk a half if he ran, because he's doing like a full marathon and then also like a 50-mile thing.
Ugh.
Right, I know.
Ugh.
But last time I just
50.
waited for him while he ran a marathon. It was real boring.
Oh, because it's
So,
like what, three or four
it's like
hours?
3 or 4 hours, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll at least walk part of it, so that way I have something to do.
See, what you should have done was when he started running, you just drive home for 30 minutes,
Right?
take a nap, and then come back and be like,
Wow.
"Oh, you were awesome. You were
So
great." Yeah, it's fantastic. Gods. Yeah, I was watching. We went to a place called Dirty Birds in San Diego. Watched the Chargers play. Whooped the shit out of the Patriots, New England Patriots today. And yeah, we saw like the Pittsburgh game was delayed because of rain and wind and shit, and it was
Oh, yeah.
god awful for Foxborough where the Chargers were playing the Patriots, and there were several games that were just. I would not want to be in the Midwest and the Northeast right now, dealing with all of that shit that they got going on up there. So, yeah.
It's gross green.
Yep. Okay, got a little confused there. Okay, all right, good. So we have some topics. Miss Berlin has a topic, and then we have a couple of things that came up in the news that thought we would talk about. But so, Miss Berlin, why don't I let you do the setup here, and we'll talk about we'll go through that and have a good chin wag, and then we'll go on to some other things.
Yeah, so I've not to anyone's surprise, I've not been a manager for super long, right? Like I've managed projects and I've managed whole companies or whatever, but I've not actually been a people manager for super long.
Right.
So I've never had to do this or worry about it. Trying to figure out how best to prove that we need more people on my team, right? We're a company that's growing. I have 3 IDEs underneath me, and for the most part, we create detections for the platform, right? We're wearing lots of hats. We do threat detection, we do red teaming, we do detection creation, IR like playbook creation, marketing stuff, like all of this stuff.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time coming up with metrics, unlike the other business sections of the company, right? So like in support, our support team's phenomenal. They can tie number of customers and number of support requests to how many people they need in CX. Makes sense, right?
Okay.
Totally makes sense.
Right.
Us, there's always going to be detections to create.
Right.
Does it matter how fast we create them? I don't necessarily think so. Obviously you're supposed to create as many as you possibly can with high fidelity.
Right.
But what rate is that? Do I make up the rate? It feels disingenuous to just make up the rate. So yeah, trying to come up with metrics that support this idea of, hey, we have too much work to do. I need more people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just kind of thoughts around that. I have a couple graphs that I made because we just started doing story points and t-shirt sizes not too long ago.
Okay.
Because before that we were just kind of winging it. We didn't really plan ahead for anything.
Right.
But we're still a young startup, so like who does? And so I have some of that data, right? So I have the amount of data and like people that have left and joined and whatever. as well as how many detections we've created over time, as well as like we go through these maturation projects where if there's, a certain number of false positives, we will run a detection through this full list of like just this full list of stuff, right? We'll set up entire environments and test them and do all this kind of stuff just to make them better. So I have all of those numbers, but I still feel like that's not enough. Maybe it is. I don't know, because I've never had to ask for more people before.
Right.
Maybe I could just be like, no, look at what we've done. Now give me more people.
That would be a beautiful world if we could do something like that. Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Boettcher. You're the manager here. I'm just a upper level, toady. So
I'm sure there's a lot of strategies to take, whatever works best for the situation, the organization, your manager. You might try giving them a choice. In other words, right now you can judge how well your team is doing. Are they doing a low level? Are they mid-tier? Or are they doing high grade work? Or are they excellent? Right? And then you can measure, it could be subjective, how well you're doing from that scale, right? Are we doing poorly, right? In your judgment, come up with some examples of how you're doing poorly. And then what's it going to take to get to the mid-tier, right? Is it going to take 2 people added to the team? What would they be what would they be doing? What would their responsibilities be? Or how many more things you could get done with the additional people, and what caliber of people those would be to get to a mid-range. And then what would it take to have an excellent group, right? And then managers can choose, well, are we really doing that poorly in your judgment? Maybe we need to step it up a little and offer, mid-range service or excellent service, right?
Right.
And I think it's like the amount of things probably is how I'm going to have to go with that, because since I've started leading the team, because we can make our own deadlines for most everything, right? Like if it's a marketing thing or if it's a product thing, we don't have that luxury. They're like, oh, we're integrating with Office 365. Like you have a deadline on creating detections to push a product out, right? I mean, you're always iterating still. So we can, other than those things, I do my best to make sure they only focus on like 90%, right? You're never going to get 100% with a lot of detections, but best effort 90%. So I think the quality's there, but if you focus on that much quality, the quantity is not there with that few people.
Right.
Right.
And are there other things that your team could be doing besides creating detections? And what are those to make your team excellent, right? Yes. And upgrade.
Yeah.
In that respect.
Because with no threat intel stuff, right? We just rely on other people's threat intel.
There you go. Then you might consider yourself mediocre or a lower tier. If they want higher tier, maybe they don't even know. Maybe your management team doesn't know that they could upgrade this, service for their clients.
Yeah. So just to add on what would make them mediocre, excellent, or what have you. Hopefully your management's not listening right now. Headcount for where I work is very much a strategic thing. So, like
our companies are massively different.
Yes.
You have more people in your team than we do in our whole company.
Yes, very, very true. But the problem. So here's the question: are you working well now with what you have?
If we don't have to worry about the amount that we're producing, yes.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. So let's say because you're a startup and you're going to be innovating and you're going to be creating new products, whatever your roadmap looks like in, say, the next 6 to 12 months, you're going to need to man up for that. And I'm sorry, not man up. You're going to have to get headcount for that. You're going to need personnel for that, right? What you're working with, what you're doing now won't get you to, there in 12 months. So hopefully your management is thinking about that in terms of your poker face sucks, Miss Berlin.
I think, honestly, kind of sidebar, I think that's why people invite me to some meetings.
No, there's no off the record right now.
Face.
Yeah, there's no off the record right now. Confidentially speaking, they all suck. Right. No, wait, we just streamed that. No, but so yeah, the roadmap is going to require more headcount. Your startup, you're going to build new products. You might actually start making your own threat intel eventually instead of borrowing other people's things. Yeah. If you've got customers that have SLAs where it's like, we expect a detection for this vulnerability in the next 48 hours, could you hit those kinds of SLAs? Right now, you're able to set your own deadlines, but could you do that in the future? Are you hitting like 46 hours out of 48, or are you having to, pull out a weekend, to push a detection by Monday morning if you're waiting for it on a Friday? Are those the kinds of hurdles that you're running into right now where it's like, oh yeah, we had to work on the weekend to get a detection out by Monday because of this vulnerability that dropped on Friday, those kinds of things.
Plus, if you're working 60, 80 hours a week, how are you going to handle an incident if an incident were to come up and your guys are all like beat as soon as that incident hits, and then you're going to ask them to work,
sure,
80, 90 hours because of that?
Our support fills in a lot of the times with the incident stuff because we technically are a product company, right? So we do initial incident response, but we do not do full IR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's more of we'll help provide information and give root cause analysis and stuff, but we're not going to touch anything.
So that's a point. So you, Mr. Boettcher, said 60 to 80 hours a week. So hopefully that's not happening. But, if the work week is supposed to be 45 to 50, you're looking at least one and a part of another person. So after a while, if your team is working on an average of 50 hours a week and you have 5 people, then, if you go by the 40-hour a week, mantra here, or whatever your culture at your company is, at some point you have to say, well, these 5 people are actually doing the work of 7 people because we're having to put 350 work hours in a week. Yeah. To cover that, and that is actually 7 people instead of 5 people. But so you could use that kind of metric. I think before we started the show, we did the how to measure anything in cybersecurity. One of the things that I think they mentioned in there is if there's a process, you can measure it. So each thing that you do in your process takes X amount of time, and building a detection for one thing may take you 24 hours. The next time it may take you 2 hours, or, maybe this detection that took 24 hours wasn't so good and it actually takes another 12 hours or something to do something. So, in practice, what's your average, detection rate? And you could probably figure that out based, if you're not measuring that right now.
Well, I have that semi figured out, right? Because we did only just start doing t-shirt sizes and story points.
Right.
And then we changed how we were doing t-shirt sizes and story points. So I spent a whole lot of time in Jira kind of guessing and adding stuff.
Right.
In 2022, because I wanted to compare 2022 versus 2023 and what we're doing per quarter and what we're doing per task type and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I'm trying to measure it, but it's very difficult early on when we don't have it's not super structured process. And I guess at a startup, I don't necessarily know that it should be, because I think a lot of detection work is it's kind of hokey to say, but it's like an artistic thing, right? It's kind of like threat hunting there's a process, but there's still a lot of thought that goes into it and a lot of just research and time and effort and documentation and all of that kind of stuff. So
right.
So while we do track it, it's not perfect.
Right. What's your backlog like? Do you have a backlog? Okay, so you have a backlog. No, and those are things you can definitely call up too.
Yeah. If we had no new work, I kind of figured it out. If we had no new work, it would only take us 2 years to get through our backlog, which is a lot. And we don't have everything in there either.
What you don't hear is my inner monologue going. Yeah. Okay. So.
Because we have like fairly well flushed out ideas in our backlog. Like, hey, it would be really cool to detect on this, but it's really difficult.
Right.
Or, hey, we need like to implement a new kind of part of the product to do it. I don't know. There's a lot.
Okay. I just found out we're still getting ads when people are listening to the show. So. Sorry to streamers. I turned that off. I swear I did. I'm just about up to here with Twitch. So, the backlog's being almost 2 years worth of work. Did your management expect that to be done in a year's time? Okay.
No, all right. It's all self-directed by me and my team.
Okay.
We're like, this is a great idea. We don't have time to do it this sprint. Put it in the backlog and we'll figure out when to do it later.
All right. And you're reviewing the backlog on a regular basis to see what's feasible and
quarterly, probably, because I go through. I just started doing this, going through and planning a quarter ahead. I was only planning like 4 sprints ahead or something like that. And actually going through the backlog and grouping like detection ideas, and like we have sprint themes, so we'll do like detection opportunity sprints, we'll do content creation sprints, we'll do you name it. We have different sprints for different things, so because we're wearing a lot of hats.
Right. Are these backlog items customer input? Is this like, hey, the customers are like, hey, you want these things?
Some, but a lot of that goes through our product team.
Right.
If they're direct customer requests, we do those once a month.
Okay.
Unless they're like really high priority, and then it's right away.
Yeah. I was wondering if you give them any different weights or anything like that. Because what I'm trying to figure out is, you can show how much work needs to be done versus, how many people you have, and then say, okay, look, if, customer 0, who's the most important customer that we have, that is, gonna, vault us to other people later on or whatever, we're gonna need 3 more FTEs. Because to be able to get through these, 5 XL things, and I'm assuming you've already defined what the t-shirt sizes are per like what Asana has mentioned here. We assume that these 5 XL items, which may take up a whole quarter by itself, and that if we don't have anything else to do, you can use things like, our backlog, how long it takes us to do detections. Do we think it's going to get better or worse depending on, what comes up, use examples from like, threat actors that use I would say use the worst case scenario if at all possible, because, you don't want to say, well, it only took us 30 minutes to do this. Well, not every one of them is going to take 30 minutes. If you've got a range, you could say, well, some take as many as 15 minutes, some take as many as 5 hours or 10, days. I don't know. Find a happy medium there. But yeah, I would say, metrics are fun, because this is you also have to figure the metrics in as part of the maturity and the workforce. So if it's like, if I want to,
I'm also hands-on keyboard, right? So it's not like I'm just doing metrics all the time.
Right.
Plus, so some job functions, you may need, you may have a single point of failure, right? Mm-hmm. A single person that's doing that job.
Right.
You may say, look, I might need somebody to cross-train with this person, because if they're gone, we're screwed.
Yeah.
If you have any like that.
Yep.
So that's another consideration. And ultimately it's about your manager, or helping your manager justify more people too, because they may not be the one that makes the ultimate decision. But if you can give them some ammo to take up the chain to say, look, we don't have good service here. If we have, 3 more people in this area, we'll be able to provide these things for our clients, and therefore upgrade what we're doing. And then their management can make the choice where to allocate funds, because it's basically, or usually, about, should we invest more here or more here? Which one's the area that has the most need?
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I'm happy that I work at a startup, because I just like booked time on my CFO's calendar the other day. I'm like, hey, can we talk about future plans?
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Nice.
Here's my plan for the next 6 years of what our org chart would look like. What do you think?
That's good. I mean, you're definitely
then
thinking
he can
strategically.
correlate, or she can correlate that with what their financial plans are going to be for the next 6 years, and do those two align.
She's like, whoa, you're planning way too far ahead. I'm like, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, is there anything that you feel like you need to improve on in that area? Well, I mean, without being business sensitive here. Are there things that are like you need now? Like if you needed to, walk up in there and tell your boss, hey, we need another full stack dev, or we need, 4 more detection people because we're drowning right now, in part A. Part B, we're doing great. Part C, we have, maybe there's an opportunity where it's like, okay, we're doing so well over here, we can probably take 1 or 2 people and move back over here. So I'm thinking of theory constraints and stuff like that. It's like, as the work comes in, the pipes squeeze or they lengthen. So where's the place where you've got the problem that you need to work on, and then try to address to get more work done.
One of them is just the fact that the market that we serve is a very unique one, because it's hard to reach them via marketing things. Right?
Sure.
Like,
okay,
SMBs that need a SIM aren't looking for one because they don't know what a SIM is. So having a lot of the people there, like, their passion is not going out and speaking about SMB security.
Right.
But we need that, right? We need people.
Sure.
Like I'm one of the few in the company that go out and give talks and work at booths and write content or whatever.
Okay.
Most of those people come from my team. So having SMEs to also work, like, we are not big enough to need an evangelist, which I hate that term anyways.
Yeah.
But having more people to do detection work that also enjoy speaking and writing content is probably where I would like to start.
Okay. When you say writing content, is like blog posts and stuff like that, because as much as I hate to suggest it, you could get some freelance folks to be like, come in and teach them things, and that would save your engineers having to write things unless you really want them to.
We had a really good technical writer, but she left, sadly.
Man, I'll tell you what,
you
don't. Yeah, I love me some technical writers. They save bacon, man.
She would outline the articles that she knew would do well in marketing.
Right.
And be like, I would like these sections. It should be about this long. This is the kind of answer, the question we're trying to answer. Does anybody in your team want to write this? And like, the idea is already fleshed out. You mean you have like articles and things to link to, and like you just kind of want our input. Perfect. Like, that's amazing. Like, we don't mind putting our names on something that we've written. Right. She's just outlined it. We write it. She polishes it up and it gets published. I don't like the idea technically of like outsourcing that and being like, hey, put your name on this.
Right. Because I don't mean like ghostwriting them, because that's what happens in a lot of companies where somebody will ghostwrite it and then the CISO writes it, and it's like, yeah, that's shitty. So I'm actually thinking like hiring like legitimate people who can write, or contractors who can write up copy for you. But and I mean, a lot of people do that, and sometimes it doesn't work for the company as well. Yeah, I think there's some good stuff there. Being able to measure your processes, figure out where where most of your work happens. Because if you can identify what part of your process that's the most painstaking for you, if it's the write-ups, if it's the after action reports, or if it's the detections themselves, like the really technical side, or being able to figure out where your choke point is in regards to your work to make it more useful. That would be good. But I mean, obviously, if you're looking for more people, your CFO's all happy and nice and everything until you go, yeah, give me some more money. And then she's probably a bit ham fisted with that. She doesn't want to let it go. Okay. But yeah, the other thing I would suggest is, and some people may balk at this, but I would say whatever you want, add 3 to it.
Right. Yeah, because I learned that not too long ago. I was talking my CEO. He came from engineering, and then he led product at Duo before he came over here. And that was one of the things that he kind of told me is like, always pad your numbers.
Well,
not always, I guess, not always.
No, I completely understand.
As effort and stuff like that, because you also never know if something's going to go wrong. Right. Like if you're projecting it's going to take you 12 weeks to do something, and you say, okay, it's going to take me 14.
Yep.
It could take you 16. You would rather be closer to the number and finish early. I don't mean like money numbers.
No, like Mr. Boettcher said, if you want to go from, if you tell them, hey, we're mediocre right now and we want to get to excellent, maybe you only want to get to good. But if you want to say, hey, we want to get to excellent, where it's like every detection goes out in 2 hours, then we need 6 people, because it takes our process this amount of time to do. If we want to get to excellent and be able to scale appropriately, we need 6 people if we want to get to excellent. In your heart, you'll be like, I'll be happy with 3.
Yeah.
And then when your CFO goes, I don't want to give you any money. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to give you any money. I'll give you 3 people, and be like, oh God, I really would, really want this. There's negotiation room is what I'm trying to say. And of course, anybody watching this on LinkedIn is going to be like, yeah, no, don't do it like that. But I'm telling you, if you tell them 3 people, you're going to get 1. And then you're going to be like, fuck, nothing has changed. So, yeah.
I'll tell them 50, and maybe I'll get 5.
Right. Do 5, and then write up a proper job description, so you're not looking for a fucking unicorn or a Loch Ness monster or something.
IDEs.
IDEs?
Yeah, incident detection engineers.
Okay.
Because it's not... You can't just come out of college and write detections.
That's true. Sounds like a job for somebody who knows how to write job detections, to write up some curricula and do some cross training.
No. I'll leave that to Megan. She wrote a book on detection engineering. So
that is a true statement.
She could probably write a college course.
Very nice. Yep.
You could.
Well, she's doing SANS stuff now, so she really can't do the college stuff. So yeah. I think she's actually doing detection engineering for SANS, right?
For IBM X-Force.
Okay. Yeah. So I hope that's helpful.
It is helpful.
Yeah.
It also helps me think that like some of the ideas that I was going with aren't crazy.
No. And right now you're in a startup, so you can make some mistakes.
Sure. And that's another thing that I like about our culture is I make mistakes all the time.
That's cool. Okay. So if people have thoughts, comments, or suggestions, we'll give Miss Berlin's social media credits out there, and they can if you have better advice or you're looking for an IDE job, those will be available to you.
Yeah.
Watch this space, folks,
and see if I succeed at that or not. If I succeed at this, there will be job openings. If I fail, there will not be.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Anything else we want to comment on before we move along? Okay. I think I want to do the CISA thing, and then we'll work on the BLUFFs at the end if everybody's cool with that. Because we're not talking specifically about security stuff in the first part here, so maybe we'll ease into the security stuff with the second bit. So, all right. So, I saw this article. I will post a link to it. It's a CyberScoop article. Somebody by the name of Goldstein. First name is CISA Goldstein. No, that's not CISA. First name is not CISA. It's the executive director for cybersecurity at the CISA. Critical Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. So it's the government agency that is trying to create guidance for all things cyber in the world. And this person, Eric Goldstein, who works at CISA, says that our solution to cybersecurity is, at least in part, patch faster, fix faster, and that is a failed model. Yes, CISA is doing free training. I actually want to talk about the training stuff in a second, too, if we have time. So the idea is to patch faster and fix faster. That is a failed model. What is y'all's thoughts on that? That, patch all the things, do it as quickly as possible before the bad guys come knocking.
It's not a bad part, I guess.
Okay.
There's a lot of things I think that people didn't patch fast enough and probably got owned.
Okay.
Move it.
Right.
It's certainly a good thing to do, right? Now, that has to fit in your overall security architecture, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, it's a good thing. If you can patch fast, great. Patch everything, that's even better.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have like rigorous testing and dev environments and stuff you have to go through first.
Right.
And it takes months.
Yeah. So their point, I think, is the whole big deal on this. And once you dig deeper back into this, they're wanting to put the onus of securing things on the vendors themselves. They say that argued that delivering broad gains in computer security requires a philosophical shift that puts a smaller burden on school districts, water companies, water utilities, and small businesses to maintain secure systems, and asks more of large companies to provide secure software and hardware. He says if you're a school district, water utility, small business, you're fundamentally not going to repeatedly succeed over time against malicious actors that we are trying to manage every day. So like Lumira is managing detections that people may or may not decide to implement into their appliances or architecture. The CyberScoop article cites the Pennsylvania water facility that had to go into manual operations because some Iranian-backed hackers broke into the network. We've had several discussions on the show here about hospitals and schools that have been busted. We've had interviews with people like April Murdoch talking about the difficulties in securing education, security people. And he says they're calling on technology providers, so technology providers, anybody who creates technology basically, to take accountability for the security of their customers by doing things like enabling default security controls such as MFA, multi-factor auth, making security logs available, using secure development practices, and embracing memory-safe languages such as Rust. And of course they link to articles that CyberScoop has also put out from Director Jen Easterly that says urges the tech sector to stop shipping unsafe products. I don't know how to feel about this because I can see it from both sides. You have the IoT space, which has historically been insecure. The problem with that is you have a $4 device. It takes $4 to build the device with a 20%, 20 times markup. you can only get so much security out of those things because they want 20%, they want 20 times the profit on that instead of 15 times the profit. You've got things that are out there for a long time, like ICS and SCADA, which, when they first were online, FTP was a thing. TFTP was a thing, you've got technology like Cisco and Fortinet and Citrix and all of these things which are exposed to the internet, and they have insecure by default, and the technology providers give them to, they sell them to the customer, and the customer can do whatever they want. So unless you're a Cisco, or unless you're a Microsoft or a Google or something like that, you can't force somebody to be secure, because they'll go, well, we're just going to go over here to talk to these folks, unless you're best in breed, or you're, in the upper right quadrant of Gartner, and that's the reason why they picked you. You have to toe that line between security and competitiveness and
usability.
And usability. Exactly. There's just some things it's like, I get it, and there should be some way to say, okay, we have the ability to do things like FTP or Telnet or expose port 443 to the web admin console to the internet. I would argue that should not be a secure, that should be a secure by default, where it's like web admins do not get exposed to the internet. We're going to ship this with a specific configuration. If you decide you want to enable it, we're going to give you a bunch of, you're going to get a bunch of emails every day. You're going to get a bunch of messages every day. We're going to hound the shit out of you because you're insecure. And we're going to throw up our hands if you get owned.
There's only so much you can do.
Yeah. And, there's going to be those folks out there that are just like, hey, that's taking choice away from me. I should be able to, expose my web admin UI to the system. And I'm like, that should be like a hidden menu feature. It's like, yeah, I can go to the web admin and I can do these 5 things. If I have the technical knowledge to be able to go through the CLI and SSH into the box and, implement these commands to enable web admin to the internet, you know what?
Sometimes people are still very technologically advanced and have still zero idea about security.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't. That's why I'm so conflicted by this. Right? It's like I want there to be secure defaults. I think that's a great idea. I mean, every Friday we seem to have another Citrix vulnerability or a remote auth bypass or an RCE or something. And it's like, don't allow, exposed web admin, don't allow the web UI to be exposed to the internet. It's like, how many times have we heard that in every news article that comes out? And it's like, people just don't fucking learn. And at some point, Cisco should be like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. And you know what? If you don't like it, go buy Blue Coat. Go buy Fortinet. Because we're fucking Cisco, and we're tired of having our name dragged through the dirt for every 10.0 or 11.0 CVE that comes out. I know it only goes to 10 people. I'm just saying.
In my heart, some of them are 11s.
My CVE scores go all the way up to 11. So, but it's one of those things where Cisco could issue this next week, and there will be fury because people will be like, "Oh, I should be able to do what the hell I want with my kit. I paid $8 million for this.
It should be secure out of the box."
No. They won't say that.
Vulnerability.
They won't say that. They won't say that. They'll be like, I should be able to sit on my Barco lounger while I'm watching Sunday Night Football, and somebody tells me there's a problem, and I can log in with my mobile app and bust up I should be able to do what I want with my system. And we've seen this time and again where Microsoft is forcing MFA on Azure for admin accounts. There's outrage for that. You've got GitHub going, hey, we need to know that you're actually the developer that's developing this shit. So we want you to sign your commits. No, I ain't doing that shit. Yeah. Security, no, that kind of thing. So there's going to be people that are going to be unhappy with this. But ultimately, CISA wants the FANGs of the world to protect people from themselves. Amazon S3 buckets. You cannot create a world and read write. Without jumping through some hoops. Your S3 buckets have to have some kind of controls, security controls on them. You're not going to make them world writable, world readable, and drop a bunch of shit in them. And if you don't like that, you can go talk to any other cloud provider that isn't Azure, Google, or Amazon, because they're all doing the same shit. Because it's like, why is Amazon allowing people to do these kind of things? Well, it's working as intended, right? So I don't know. I get it. Users got to use, and they got to have interoperability and sometimes backward compatibility. But on the other hand, it's like, if you didn't have an exposed web UI, you wouldn't have the next Friday afternoon wasted because Cisco's got another RCE or an F5 or something like that. If it's not enabled, you're not, you can go enjoy your weekend. So I don't know. Thoughts, comments, concerns, questions? Got real quiet in chat on Twitch, by the way. So I don't. The problem is it's evil Microsoft, or it's evil Amazon, or it's evil Google, taking, controlling things. And it's like, they're just tired of having to issue CVEs and dealing with their own incident response stuff.
Right.
So yeah, let me see. What she had another point in here. Where the hell was that? It was, there was an op-ed piece that they wrote up that was on Fortune magazine or something. I put that in the bottom. Stop passing the cybersecurity buck. Yeah, there it is. CISA.gov. It's in our show notes. I'll post it up here in the Slack channel as well. It's okay, Super Lolly. Thank you for being here, by the way. It's Monday morning for Super Lolly. Lives in Malaysia. So it's PDF. Despite the global multi-million-dollar cybersecurity industry, the threat from cyber activity from state and criminal actors continues to grow. What the United States faces is less a cybersecurity problem than a broad technology and culture problem. Incentives for developing and selling technology have eclipsed customer safety and importance. So what they're talking about different ways to, we should be embracing SDLC, and for the most part, a lot of companies do, but we still what was that? Phineas and Ferb? It's like, why did you create a button that blows things up? And it's like, well, why not? That kind of thing. Why they blow up in it. Anyway, so.
Such a great show.
It was a very good show. Yeah. Yeah, that's my Perry. So,
pretty good.
But yeah, they're I don't know what the answer is for that, and that's something that we're going to continue to see going down the line here. I think at some point we'll see somebody like a Cisco or Juniper going, yeah, the next iterations are not going to have the ability to expose things to the internet, or they'll have safe defaults where it will take some effort for them to make them insecure. Pre-auth RCE, or auth bypasses on web admins, that's going to, be lessened, because we're not going to allow web admin exposed on the internet. And you're going, if you're going to set this up, you're going to have a jump box, or, you're going to have Citrix, and Citrix will have some kind of security requirements where it's like, your VPN's got to be this. You can't just, hook up your Citrix in some half-assed way, which, is going to make some IT folks unhappy, but ultimately, I think they don't realize it's going to save them time and effort and money in the long run. I think incident response teams are kind of tired of this shit too. So it is what it is. Yeah. Mr. Boettcher, are all of your infrastructure, you run IT for a company, so what's your sane defaults look like? Are you able to log in remotely from web UI and play with your Cisco boxing?
Just over VPN. You get on the VPN, log in, then you can get to your UIs.
There you go.
From there. So
there you go. Beta Wolf says, "You're not my CISO. You can't tell me how to security." Yeah, that's the fucking problem right
Exactly.
there. So yeah, I'm a big boy now. You can't tell me how to security. Yeah. So speaking of Cisco and Fortinet vulnerabilities, where you want to patch those things. There's been a lot of discussion about, patching those things. And this guy says that it's, patch quick, patch whatever. How many times have we seen pen test companies talk to us? And I've worked for one, by the way. And I have been the recipient of pen tests. And I have been the person negotiating pen tests between product teams and third-party pen testers. So I've been in every facet of the engagement relationship. The only one I haven't been on is a product team that has been, given a pen test. We get a lot of vulnerabilities that don't really have any impact. TLS handshakes. When I see that shit in a report, I'm knowing that they just ran Nessus and called it good. You can almost guarantee seeing some of those that come up. The question I'm trying to ask here is a pen test report impactful, or should we be highlighting in pen test reports the impact of not doing things like hygiene and what have you? I mean, we can drop XSS all day, but if we're doing threat models for engagements, should those also be vulnerabilities? Like, we've noticed during the architecture review or during the scope meeting, you're not doing X, or you don't have logging, or you're not doing these things. Should hygiene be considered part of the engagement as a finding?
I think architecture reviews should be more important than pen tests.
Okay. Beta Wolf agrees with you.
More people need architecture and permission reviews than need pen tests.
There's a reason why pen test is last on the top 20 security controls, right?
It's 18
all the
now.
Other stuff first.
It's 18 now. They took 2 of them out. I only found out about that a couple of weeks ago myself. So
wait, there's not 20 in general anymore?
No. And they've actually took a handful out and added a couple of new ones. But one of them is now like manage your third-party risk or look at your third-party vendors, which wasn't in, I think, the original top 20. I think pen test is still one of the last ones that you do. But yeah, I find that it would be helpful if you added those hygiene issues, like asking questions like, "Hey, what's your software inventory look like?" Or do you have an accurate accounting of the devices in your network for the architecture diagrams? And do you have data flow? Do you know where your trust boundaries are? Asking questions about it's not just having an auth boundary, but like if I send data to this thing, does it just blindly take that information? I've worked with several people that have taught me different things about threat modeling. So I tend to ask those questions, and that's not in a typical threat model. It's like, well, if I send that thing a bunch of information, does it just blindly trust the information that I'm giving it without any kind of auth boundary? Beta Wolf says, how do you think any good hacker finds half their shit? It's finding issues in the architecture. Yeah. I just think that those hygiene issues are far more impactful for the organization than just, hey, patch your stuff or, add this rule to the WAF.
I think a lot of them are, well, maybe, I don't know about a lot. I've seen those kind of things show up on pen test reports though, right?
Oh, that's good.
Hey, you have a flat network.
Oh, right.
We were able to get to everything, right? Like
okay.
segment your Or, hey, you don't have two-factor auth on everything. You probably should.
Okay.
I've seen it show up on pen test reports.
No. I have issues with two-factor all the things, but that's me. I think in
multi-factor, I guess.
I think it should be judiciously used. I don't think every person in the company needs 2FA. I know. Please send me your hate. I don't think.
Give me a situation where somebody that has an account couldn't be for this.
I think the reason you need MFA is because your underlying network is so shitty. Because I want to say your receptionist is in the same area as your developers, or your marketing people have the same or more access than your security people. I think with proper role control and isolation, you wouldn't necessarily always need MFA. Uh-oh. That's the same way my wife says when I say something stupid.
I just think that you can more easily hop between, if you can get initial access,
right?
You're going to it will be easier to get further inside a network.
I can do that.
Why not?
I get your point. I think MFA depends on whether or not it's cost effective, because there's a lot of folks out there that's like, oh, don't use SMS to MFA, and I'm like,
yeah.
This is one of those things where it's like, I think NIST fucked up on that. Just because and everybody's like, oh, NIST says NIST is just guidelines. That means you don't have to follow them. If somebody does flip your phone number, that's one person in your company. Now, it may be a very important person in your company, but it's better than nothing. If you have to enable SMS, it's a cheaper method than by going to Okta, which, if I can be honest, Okta is not actually batting a million right now. They're not doing so hot. So
I was really hoping my stocks would eventually go up, and I don't think they are.
Well, after their 1, 2, 3, fourth,
something like that,
12th, 15th, I don't know.
Didn't they announce a few months ago? Yeah, it's 1% of our data, our customer data. It's 1%.
I think they keep changing it though.
Well,
then last week they came out and said, yeah, we kind of underestimated that a little bit. It's actually 100%.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they also said it's just email and password, or no, name and email. Those were the only things that they had right now. And somebody was like, "How?" I actually posted this up on LinkedIn. They were like, "How is this allowed to happen? How do they just string people along and say nothing happened and then they do this?" I was like, "That's literally in their playbook, bruh." They're reporting on what they know at the time. And then it's like 2 months later, after they've completely done the investigation, oh, yeah, okay. Nothing was found 2 months ago. Oh, some things were found. And I was like, wait, in a month or two, they'll come back and go, okay, you remember when we said it was just name and email? Yeah, we got completely fucking dumped, including the government stuff that they said wasn't touched. And I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, it's literally in their playbook to spoon feed you that shit to adjust the stock market prices accordingly. You get your 10% drop, then you get your 15% recovery, and then you get your 10% drop, and then you get 15% recovery. So it's just one of those things. Welcome to Break Sec, where we have all the hot takes. All right.
It's a great episode tonight.
Yeah. I'm on one. You should hear my streams on Tuesdays when I talked about training and how it's mostly shit these days. Anyway. So I'm talking about the impact stuff. Are there vulnerabilities that maybe you should just let go? We talk about risk acceptance and transference and avoidance and, buying new shit. I forget what the fourth one is, but they're pretty much all transference or avoidance in some way, shape, or form.
That's in our playbook, whether we want to even look for, like, whether we want to write an article on it or look into it more or whatever. It's like, well, you mean you have to be like in front of the computer doing, and it has to be vulnerable to this, and it has to be connected to the, well, that's not
a long series of unfortunate events in order to lead to that.
There's way more things to worry about than that.
Right. Like, so you have acceptance criteria for risks. Is it based on like level of effort, or is it based on amount of money, or is it, do you actually go through and analyze the risk like you would a detection and go, okay, yeah, this is hot garbage, we're not going to do it. Okay.
Yeah. How much impact it would have versus the severity versus the likelihood.
Right. Okay. This is
you might have a vulnerability that's really bad, but the attack chain does, there's a break in the link there. So no one could ever exploit it realistically.
Right.
It's hanging there, but there has to be a couple of things added to that aren't there. Like, you have to have an admin of this type on that system, and you don't have any.
Right.
Plus you need open RDP to the internet, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is a segue into our last section here. There's a vulnerability that came out this week called BLUFFs. Actually, I believe it came out last week, Friday or so. BLUFFs, stands for Bluetooth Forward and Future Secrecy Attacks and Defense. Well, minus the D part. I don't know. This person didn't do a very good job of acronyming this thing. The synopsis of the vulnerability is that Bluetooth versions 4.2 to 5.4, which is spans about 10 years. 4.2 came out, I believe, in 2013, 2014. 5.4 just came out in February of this year, 2023. When you make a connection between two devices, and this is the connection version as far as we can tell, there hasn't been any updates yet, but there's two different types of Bluetooth. There's low energy Bluetooth, which is like, there's connectionless, and then there's ones that are connections. So if you have like earbuds and your phone, and you're pairing those together, and you get a pin that goes back and forth, and the idea is there's a session key that is used to create what's called a long-term key, which creates that trust relationship between those two devices. The Bluetooth spec is written such that you can have keys that are extremely short, or you can have them extremely long, which you would think people would have really long session keys, and they don't. And so this researcher has found out that you can do a host in the middle attack during certain time windows, being when device A is trying to pair to device B. There's still a little haziness about whether or not it's, after the device A and device B have been established, if you can do it again and again. But so this vulnerability came out, and obviously it's got a name, it's got some media attention, there's a white paper involved, it's got a bunch of math in there, which, scares people. And so, it came up in a couple of meetings that I, was involved with, and I'm not going to belabor the point, but some, people were like, hey, we use Bluetooth. And I was like, yes, everybody does. Billions and billions of devices use Bluetooth. And, we started talking about it a little bit, and the more and more we talked about it, the more we realized that this is very similar to other attacks that happened. There was one a couple of months ago, you might have read on Twitter, where somebody said, hey, somebody stole some stuff off my porch, and it appears that my camera had been de-authed, that somebody had done something like that. And there was some issues there where it's like, well, how can that happen? And that's just part of the Wi-Fi process, where it's like you could send a signal to, the device, and it gets de-authed. There are certain things in the specification that probably shouldn't be there, but are there. Now, the deauth attacks are just something that, like, if you get sent a reset signal, then it goes and does something else. In this case, the attack is not a vulnerability. It's just a weakness in the specification. And, so we were discussing it, and you have to be with, Bluetooth range, so it's not remote. So, we're still trying to figure out if the CVE for the CV, what they rate the CVE on this? Let's see. They gave it a 6.8. So that's not bad. It was, because, some people get weirded out because there's proof of concept code. The researcher actually has a GitHub site that has a Python script that you can go in to test to see if you're vulnerable. It also has, this person actually went above and beyond and created patches for like ARM architecture. But so this could be really, really bad, except for the fact that you have to be within 10 to 20 meters or 0 to 20 meters or whatever the Bluetooth spec is to be able to launch the attack at the same time that somebody is also doing a pairing mechanism, and it's not at scale. So
question.
Go ahead.
When you say pairing,
does
that mean that it's like pairing for the first time two devices, or you turn one on, you've already been using it for a year, and it's negotiating or whatever?
The way I understand it, and I could be wrong, and if there's anybody smarter than me on chat or watching this and going, no, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. The way I understand it is device A, your earbuds in this case, and your phone can pair, and then you can turn them off and go back and do it again. And every time it pairs, there's a session key that gets created. And every time it pairs, you can, if you catch that handshake or that, every time, kind of like when you did WPS scanning back in the day with like Reaver or something for Wi-Fi. Or you connect, you capture the WPA handshake, and then you can do an offline brute force. So there's a window of opportunity where somebody can do the host in the middle, regardless of if if I'm pairing, I'm pairing, I'm pairing, not pairing. If they did that enough times, and with enough window, you can actually derive the long-term key. And so, it can, if you've done it once and you do it again, if somebody catches you on the second time through on your earbuds, given the time frame and the number of digits, because a lot of the session digits for things like earbuds and stuff are like 4 octets, and given enough time, you can run through all those iterations and then figure out what the key is. So by lengthening that key, that session key, you make it less likely for people. They say the Bluetooth SIG actually suggests 7 as a minimum. I mean, you can go as high as you want, I guess. The problem that I think a lot of people are worried about is breaking backwards compatibility with older legacy stuff. I don't want to call it cheaper. It's legacy stuff. So, the problem is this is a 6.8. So, I mean, when I last looked at this, they didn't even have the base score on there because they didn't have enough information. It also requires secure simple pairing and secure connections in certain Bluetooth specifications. So if you're using older like Bluetooth 3 or 4 stuff, you're not even vulnerable, as far as I can tell. That's what NVD says here. So, but yeah, I mean, it feels like sometimes we being the industry, don't think about those kinds of things when we think of impact. And yes, it's a high impact to a person. If right. This same Bluetooth attack could own all 3 of us right here, geographically disparate over the internet, then that's a problem. But if somebody's sitting out in their car halfway down my street waiting for me to pair my devices together like this.
How often do you pair your device?
Well, I mean, when I logged in today, I paired.
It's not just the newly paired.
Right. It's not newly paired. I believe it's every time there's a specific window where they could go in. So, I think we talked a little bit about this before, but I was like, if you have one of those asshole neighbors who is curious, read hacker, and has a flipper 0, then, unfortunately you're screwed. That person is going to be curious and attempt to do these BLUFFs attacks on you. Because, another topic I want to talk about is, being curious versus exceeding scope. We've got so much shit. Some of that'll come up in my stream on Tuesdays, but it's like, it's a high impact for the person that is involved. Like for this, they want my contact information because it can make phone calls and, instead, or like, I've got workout information on my smartwatch, or, I can, send text messages over the Bluetooth connection to my phone. So yeah, you could eavesdrop on the connections there. If you break the long-term key, apparently you can decrypt anything in the future. So, if you're collecting that information now and eventually you can crack the long-term key, then all of the messages that were sent in, the last 4 or 5 months since I've owned my watch can be cracked and decrypted. See, Beta Wolf got it right. I'd rather just hack your car to listen to your conversations. Right. I mean, it would be easier for you to break in. It would be easier for you to break into my house while I'm sleeping, steal my watch, and then, just read the content on my phone or something like that. There are just some vulnerabilities that it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to accept that because unless we can do it at scale and, unless they can crack that stuff in 2 minutes, I mean, it's a business decision at that point. So
did the FBI know about this for the last 5 years?
Probably not. Probably not.
You don't think so?
Well, if they did, this researcher's not letting on with that. But if you go check out his white paper, Daniel Anatolioni, I ruined that. He works for a joint called Eurocom. I'm sorry, not even a he. I don't know his pronouns. So the researcher works for something called Eurocom, EURECOM, and you can read the white paper. It's actually pretty good. I don't think it's an alias. I just don't know if it says it's Danielle, so I don't know if it's Daniel or Danielle or what have you. But it's an interesting read. I'm sure we'll get more coming out about it. But I just think every vulnerability that comes out, think about what you're doing there before you decide you need to patch. If it's not impactful, then there's no reason to patch immediately. And that's the CVE is supposed to help with that, but it assumes that it's exposed to the internet. Every CVE 10 may not be a CVE 10. So that's where it actually takes some analysis, some methods by which that happens, some threat intel, which is why we have folks like Blumera helping us out with those things. So, yeah, that was my rant. That's a bit of Ranty Clause for me. I did a little ranting about training and stuff a couple weeks ago, which I found interesting. Mick Douglas's discussion about exceeding scope or not having scope in the first place was kind of interesting to talk about too. We can talk about that at some other time, but I think we can go. Miss Berlin, Mr. Boettcher, it's always a pleasure having you on with me. I don't know if we're going to be able to get back on before the first of the year. I do want to have a planning meeting because I do want to talk about some things, but I do know that we're getting real close to the holiday. Let me see. Do we have any more time? Do we have any other holidays? We got the 16th, which I'll be on a cruise in Mexico. So, and then the 23rd is the day before Christmas. We're still streaming, I know, but yeah, it feels like, if we wanted to do something, we're going to be hard pressed to do so with everybody's holidays. So, bro, I'm not getting the time between Christmas and New Year's off. What the fuck? Well, yikes. Yow. I have to tell you, it's probably pretty dead at my office after the 18th, I'd say. We probably got another week and a half, and then everybody's going to be like GTFOing. Or,
down the whole week.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I like taking my vacations before we shut down, so I get like extra time off.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
The 15th through the 21st is when we're doing our cruise. So yeah.
Yeah. We're going, we're not as fancy as cruise, but we're going on the Amtrak to New York.
Nice.
Mhm.
Okay. I've taken trains before. They're not
Like
fast though. It's not fast.
14 hours or something. That would take us probably 9 to drive, but
Right. You don't have to drive it and you don't put the
but I
mileage on your
don't
car. And
exactly.
yeah, so that's nice. What are you going to be doing in New York?
We're just gonna stay outside of Poughkeepsie and do a bunch of hiking, and then probably go into town 1 or 2 days.
Into the town of Poughkeepsie or the town of New York
To
City?
like the city, yeah, New York City.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. All right. Very cool.
My kids have never been to New York, so
I went a few years ago. I think it was 2007, 2008, and then we went last year, and it was different both times for me. The second time I was like, I don't hate New York. We stayed in Hell's Kitchen, which is not bad. The food was very good. The pizza we had there was really excellent. We got to see Times Square and Central Park, and it's going to be all Christmassy, so it should look nice unless you've got a blizzard or something, superstorm, coming in. So that's cool. Mr. Boettcher, how about you? What are you doing for a holiday?
We're going hiking in a canyon in the Texas Panhandle.
Oh, cool. That's not Badlands.
Palo Duro, I think.
Palo Duro. Okay. That's different than the one you took the last time. You went to, I think, almost due south to the other joint, right? Not Badlands. Why do I
Yeah,
keep thinking Badlands?
probably talking about Big Bend.
Big Bend. Yes. Yes. Big Bend. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're just going to get on a Holland America ship. The good thing about living in San Diego is you just take the Uber down to the cruise ship terminal. So you don't have to fly. You don't have a hotel.
nice.
We're like 30 minutes from the cruise ship terminal. So we got us a nice little suite. We're just gonna, sit around in our banana hammocks and, swim and stuff. So, I told my wife, she's like, you've got, you've been working out. Are you sure your swim trunks fit? And I was like, yeah, here's my swim trunks. I've got just, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah, a bag.
Yeah, I just got a bag. I don't need a swim trunks, no tan lines, you know what I mean?
I was so disappointed because I specifically bought 3 mankinis to take to Vegas with me and forgot them here.
Oh no.
I was so upset.
No. Oh my
Not
god.
for me,
Mankini.
but for the people at the Airbnb.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna take a lot of alcohol to do the
I was very
mankini for
sad.
me. So wow. Wow. The Berber almost got canceled with the pause after the food was. What? You'll have to tell me that one, Beta Wolf. I don't understand. So, but yeah, we're just gonna play it low key. We actually invited a friend of mine. I invited my trainer to Thanksgiving because he's a naturalized citizen, so he was a veteran, but he's from Sweden, so he's like half Swedish, so he doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving. And so I asked him, I was like, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? He's like, oh, I don't have anything. I'm not, I don't have anybody to hang out with. I don't have any family. And I was like, fuck. All right. Well, you're coming to Thanksgiving. So he came to Thanksgiving, and I think the day after his father came out, and he was like, yeah, my father says thank you for, having me over for Thanksgiving. Now I feel like I need to invite him over for Christmas, because it's like, well, Christmas is kind of bigger than Thanksgiving, but it's like, ooh. I think he's actually doing something for Christmas, but yeah. The fact that I like my trainer well enough to invite him over to Thanksgiving was something else too. So
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
I can't argue with the results. So I got a little cleavage going on now. So that's nice.
Nice.
So I can look down and look at I got boobies. Yeah. Anyway. So, all right. Well, we're going to be done here. I wish you all a happy holiday. Whatever you celebrate or don't celebrate, Saturnalia and Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and Christmas and Yule and all those good things. And we'll have to get together offline and talk about podcasts and stuff like that, like we normally do. Yes. Oh, and Festivus for the rest of us, and Robonica. I don't know what that one is, Beta Wolf. You'll hook me up with that one. So, oh no, Hell's Kitchen is great. The food in New York is awesome. Oh, okay. I don't know Robonica. I'll have to go look that one up. So, But so, Ms. Berlin, how would people find you if they wanted to ask you questions about manpower and metrics and things? Is it LinkedIn? It's always LinkedIn?
Probably LinkedIn. I've been
LinkedIn.
on Twitter a little bit more lately.
Okay. Okay.
Still not a ton, but
Right. Okay.
a little
Very
bit more.
cool. Okay. Mr. Boettcher, how would people contact you or not?
LinkedIn,
Airmail, snail mail? Okay. LinkedIn. All right. All right.
My address is on the internet. Send me a Christmas card, I guess.
There you go. Secret. Oh, I missed Hacker Secret Santa this year.
So I was a little confused. So I gave it up and gave it to somebody else like 3 years ago.
Right.
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 It was getting too much for me.
Right.
I'll just stop there. And I thought it didn't go on this year because I also didn't get it.
Oh.
Turns out that it did.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh well.
I got asked by somebody that's like, hey, what do you think I should get for that person? I was like, maybe you should talk to Miss Berlin because they know them a little better than I do. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know what was going on. And they're like, oh yeah, it's already been decided and everything. I was like, fuck, okay, well,
I had no idea.
Damn. Okay.
I was just kind of hoping it didn't happen.
Right.
I know people probably are not happy that I said that because I started it, but it was a pain in the ass.
It's difficult to organize those things. It is.
It is because nobody like a lot of people that I personally know are great. Like they were great participants. They like did it just for the fun of finding out and giving cool gifts to people.
Right.
But there's a whole lot of people that I did not know that signed up.
Yeah.
And then when there's other people that they just like expect it to be like professional, like Reddit's Secret Santa is phenomenal. Like they have their own platform. And I'm like, this is me. No, like I'm not catering and giving tech support to thousands of people.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is if I don't know that person, it's like, what the hell do I get them?
Right.
Do I get them a no starch press gift certificate for you? Done.
Yeah.
Mark it. Yeah. And it's like that doesn't really add anything. Yeah. And it's like, what are you supposed to do? Be all creepy and scent them up and go, oh, okay, they like Star Trek stuff, or they have a cat.
That was the idea, right? Like you would on social media post things that you like.
Oh.
Like themed,
okay.
Like kind of like mini OSINT CTFs.
I like Ferraris and Maseratis and really expensive jewelry. So
because I always made the joke that like if someone wanted, they could really pay off my mortgage.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, Beta Wolf, you could have gotten a No Starch Press gift card. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm on LinkedIn too. I'm on Twitch and Twitter, and I stream on Tuesdays. I'm still trying to keep up with the Rust programming on Fridays that I'm doing. I really struggled last Friday, and I'm starting to not like it again, and I hate that because I really want to do something for the stream, but I don't know if programming is what it is. So we may end up having to make some changes in the new year. And if Twitch continues to show ads on my stream after I've told it to STFU, I may just drop Twitch altogether and go to YouTube because it's easier. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, happy holidays to you, Ms. Berlin, Mr. Boettcher, and we'll get back together after the new year, I think, and we'll do some planning and discussion, and see where we head. So, thank you to Beta Wolf for being on tonight, and Super Lolly. It's been a while. Thank you for joining, and hope you have a good week. There's Super Lolly, and yeah, that was it for the show this week. Take care of yourselves, be kind to one another, and take care of yourself, because as we're fond of saying here, you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.